When my daughter-in-law Jessica stretched out her perfectly manicured hand across my kitchen table and said, "Margaret, I think it's time you gave me your wedding ring. It should stay in the family." I felt my heart stop. This was not just any ring. This was the ring my husband Thomas had saved for 6 months to buy me in 1978. The ring I had worn for 42 years before cancer took him from me. The ring that still carried the warmth of our love story. Jessica smiled that calculating smile I had learned to recognize over the past 2 years. "After all, when you're gone, it will go to Daniel anyway, and then to me. Why not just give it to me now so I can enjoy it?" I looked down at the simple gold band with 3 small diamonds. Thomas had worked double shifts at the factory to afford those diamonds. Each one represented a promise he made on our wedding day: love, loyalty, and forever. I'm so glad you're here. If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I love hearing from viewers all around the world. I sat across from Jessica in the kitchen of the home Thomas and I had built together 40 years ago. Every corner of this house held memories. The scratches on the hardwood floor from when Daniel learned to ride his bike inside during a rainstorm, the height marks on the doorframe tracking Daniel's growth from age 5 to 18, the garden outside that Thomas had planted the year Daniel was born. This house was not just a building, it was the physical manifestation of our family's history. Jessica had been Daniel's wife for 2 years, but in that time she had developed an unusual interest in my possessions. It started small. She admired my grandmother's china set and suggested I put it in her name for safekeeping. She loved the antique mirror in my hallway and offered to take it home to clean it. She thought my mother's pearl necklace would look beautiful on her for special occasions. Each time I politely declined, sensing something beneath her requests that felt wrong. But the wedding ring was different. This was not just an item. This was the symbol of the most important relationship of my life. "Jessica," I said carefully, choosing my words like I was walking through a minefield. "This ring is very special to me. I'm not ready to part with it while I'm still alive." Her expression changed in an instant. The sweet smile vanished and was replaced by something harder, colder. "Margaret, you're being selfish. This ring represents the family legacy. Daniel is an only child. I'm his wife. That makes me the rightful heir to family treasures." The word selfish stung like a slap. I had given everything to my family. When Thomas got sick, I quit my job as a high school English teacher to take care of him full-time for 2 years. I used my entire retirement savings to pay for treatments that insurance wouldn't cover. After he died, I sold his vintage car collection that he had spent 30 years building because Daniel and Jessica needed money for a down payment on their house. I had given them $45,000 without asking for anything in return. And now I was selfish for wanting to keep my wedding ring? "Jessica, the ring stays with me," I said with more firmness than I felt. "When I pass away, Daniel will inherit it, and he can decide what to do with it." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor with an angry screech. "You'll regret this, Margaret. You're pushing your family away with your stubbornness. Don't come crying to me when you're old and alone with no one to take care of you." She grabbed her designer purse, another gift I had helped purchase for her birthday, and stormed out of my house. The front door slammed so hard that the family photos on the wall shook. I sat alone in my kitchen for a long time after she left, turning my wedding ring around and around on my finger. The habit was so old that I barely noticed doing it anymore. But now, looking at it consciously, I saw every detail. The slight wear on the band from 42 years of daily use. The way the diamonds caught the afternoon light. The inscription inside that Thomas had added on our 25th anniversary. "Forever and always, my M." That night, I couldn't sleep. Jessica's words kept echoing in my head. "You'll regret this. You're pushing your family away." I thought about Daniel, my only child, the boy I had raised alone after Thomas died. We used to be so close. He would call me every Sunday without fail. We would have dinner together twice a month. He would ask my advice about everything from career decisions to what color to paint his living room. But after he married Jessica 2 years ago, things changed slowly, like a river gradually shifting its course. The Sunday calls became monthly, the dinners became occasional, and when we did talk, Jessica was always there, always listening, always inserting her opinions. I remembered the moment I first met Jessica 3 years ago. Daniel had brought her to Sunday dinner, his face glowing with happiness. "Mom, this is Jessica," he said with pride in his voice. "She's the one." She'd been charming that day. She complimented my cooking. She laughed at my stories. She admired the family photos on the mantel. She asked thoughtful questions about Thomas and our life together. I thought I had found the daughter I never had. But gradually, small things began to seem off. She would make comments about my clothes being outdated. She would suggest I update my furniture because my style was too old-fashioned. She would wrinkle her nose at my cooking and mention that Daniel preferred different foods now. She started calling me Margaret instead of Mom, even though I had encouraged her to use the more familiar term. And then there was the money. Oh, the money. I sat down at my kitchen table the morning after Jessica's visit and did something I should have done months ago. I pulled out my checkbook, my bank, statements from Chase Bank, and my credit card records. I wanted to see exactly how much I had given to Daniel and Jessica since they got married. The numbers made my stomach turn. Down payment for their house in the suburbs, $45,000. This was from the sale of Thomas's vintage car collection, including his beloved 1967 Mustang that he had restored by hand over 5 years. New furniture for their living room because Jessica said my old couch I offered them was too worn, $3,200. This was supposed to be a loan, but they never paid it back. Emergency car repair when Jessica's BMW broke down, $2,800. Kitchen renovation because Jessica couldn't cook in an outdated kitchen, $8,500. Wedding gift, $5,000 in cash. Anniversary gift, $200 designer watch for Daniel. Jessica's birthday presents over 2 years, $800 total. Christmas gifts over 2 years, $1,500 total. Emergency medical bills when Jessica needed dental work, $3,400. Vacation to Hawaii that I funded because they were stressed, $6,000. I added it up 3 times because I couldn't believe the total, $77,400. In 2 years, I had given them $77,400 from my savings, from Thomas's life insurance, from the sale of his possessions, from my own modest teacher's pension, and this was not counting the smaller amounts. The $100 here and there for gas money, the groceries I bought when they visited, the meals I paid for when we went out to dinner, the clothes I bought for Daniel because Jessica said he needed to dress better for his job. I had given them almost $80,000, and now Jessica wanted my wedding ring. The ring that couldn't have been worth more than $4,000, even with today's prices. But it wasn't about the monetary value. It was about the fact that she wanted to take the last piece of Thomas I had left. I sat there looking at those numbers, and something inside me shifted. It was not anger exactly. It was more like clarity, like I had been looking at a picture that was slightly out of focus, and suddenly someone adjusted the lens. I had been so eager to help my son and his new wife. I wanted them to be happy. I wanted them to have a good start in their marriage. I wanted to be the kind of mother-in-law who was supportive and generous. But when did generosity become exploitation? When did love become a transaction? I picked up my phone and called my son. "Daniel," I said when he answered, "we need to talk." There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could hear Jessica's voice in the background asking who was calling. "Hi, Mom," Daniel said, and his voice sounded strained. "Is this about the ring? Jessica told me what happened." Of course she did. "Yes, it's about the ring," I replied, "and about a lot of other things. Can you come over? Alone?" Another pause. "Mom, Jessica and I are a team. We don't keep secrets from each other. Whatever you want to say to me, you can say to both of us." When did my son start talking like this? When did he become someone who needed his wife's permission to have a private conversation with his own mother? Daniel, I need to speak with you alone. This is between you and me, please. I heard muffled conversation in the background. Jessica's voice was getting louder, more insistent. Finally, Daniel came back on the line. Fine, I'll come over tomorrow afternoon, but I can't stay long. We have dinner plans. He hung up without saying goodbye. That had never happened before. My son, who used to tell me he loved me at the end of every phone call, just hung up. I looked around my empty house, at all the memories contained within these walls, and felt truly alone for the first time since Thomas died. That night, I did something I had been avoiding for months. I went up to the attic and pulled out the boxes of Thomas's things that I had packed away after he died. I needed to feel close to him. I needed his guidance. In one box, I found his journals. Thomas had kept a journal since he was a teenager. He wrote in it every night before bed, even when he was exhausted from work. I had never read them before because they felt too personal, too private. But now, sitting in the dusty attic with the boxes of his life surrounding me, I opened the journal from the year Daniel was born. The entry from the day of Daniel's birth made me cry. Thomas had written about holding our son for the first time, about the overwhelming love he felt, about the promises he made to be a good father. He wrote about his fears too. What if he wasn't good enough? What if he failed as a father? What if he couldn't provide for his family? I flipped through the years, reading entries here and there. Thomas wrote about Daniel's first steps, his first words, his first day of school. He wrote about how proud he was when Daniel made the baseball team. He wrote about the long talks they had when Daniel was deciding which college to attend. He wrote about his concerns when Daniel started dating seriously in his 20s. One entry from 6 years ago caught my attention. Daniel brought another girlfriend to meet us today. She seemed nice enough, but Margaret and I both sensed something calculating about her. She asked very specific questions about our finances, about the house, about my car collection. Margaret dismissed my concerns, said I was being overprotective. Maybe I am, but I've always believed you can tell a lot about a person's character by what they're interested in. This girl asked about our possessions, but not about our lives. Red flag. That girlfriend had not lasted long, but it made me think about Jessica. Had Thomas met her before he died? I flipped forward to the entries from 3 years ago, around the time Daniel started dating Jessica. My hands shook as I read. Met Daniel's new girlfriend Jessica today. Beautiful woman, very polished. She reminds me of Margaret's cousin Linda, the one who married rich and then divorced, richer. Jessica asked about the value of the house within 5 minutes of walking through the door. She commented on my car collection and asked if Daniel would inherit it. She noticed Margaret's ring and asked if it was a family heirloom. I don't trust her. I told Daniel to be careful, to take his time. He got defensive, said I was being judgmental. Maybe I am, but I've learned to trust my instincts about people. This one is interested in what we have, not who we are. I pressed the journal to my chest and cried. Thomas had seen it. He had seen through Jessica from the very beginning, and he had tried to warn Daniel. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I got dressed carefully, putting on one of my better outfits. I made coffee and sat down to wait for Daniel. He arrived at 2 p.m. exactly. When I opened the door, I barely recognized him. He had lost weight. There were dark circles under his eyes. His clothes, expensive as they were, hung on him like he was a child playing dress-up. "Hi, Mom," he said, and he wouldn't quite meet my eyes. We sat in the living room, the same room where he had taken his first steps, where we had celebrated countless Christmas mornings, where Thomas and I had taught him to play chess. "Daniel," I began carefully, "I want to talk to you about what's been happening." He sighed like I was being difficult. "Mom, if this is about the ring, Jessica explained that she didn't mean to upset you. She just thought it would be practical to pass it down now instead of waiting." Practical. My wedding ring. "It's not just about the ring," I said. Daniel, in the past 2 years, I've given you and Jessica 70 centavos worth $400. His head snapped up and he finally looked at me. What? I added it up. The house down payment, the furniture, the car repairs, the kitchen renovation, the vacation. All of it. 70 centavos $400 in 2 years. He opened his mouth and closed it again. His face had gone pale. I didn't realize it was that much. Neither did I until I calculated it. Daniel, that's money from your father's life insurance, from the sale of his car collection, from my retirement savings. That's money I needed for my own future. He looked down at his hands. You never said anything. Whenever we asked for help, you offered it willingly. I did, I agreed. Because I love you. Because I want you to be happy. But Daniel, when does it end? When do you and Jessica stand on your own 2 feet? And more importantly, when did our relationship become about money? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Jessica says you have more than you need. She says the house is too big for one person. She says you're sitting on assets while we're struggling. The words hit me like physical blows. Is that what you think too? That I'm being selfish by living in the house your father and I built? By keeping the ring he gave me? No, he said quickly. Then more hesitantly, I don't know. Jessica makes good points. You do have a lot of equity in this house, and you don't have any major expenses. I stood up and walked to the mantel, where a photo of Thomas sat in his favorite frame. Daniel, do you remember what your father told you before he died? He looked confused by the change in subject. He told me a lot of things. He told you to take care of your mother. He made you promise. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. I remember. Taking care of me doesn't mean taking everything from me, I said gently. It doesn't mean pushing me to give up the home I love or the possessions that hold memories. It means respecting me as a person, not seeing me as a resource to be divided up. He put his face in his hands. For a moment, I saw my little boy again, the one who used to run to me when he was scared or sad. Mom, I'm so tired. Jessica always wants more. A bigger house, a better car, designer clothes, expensive vacations. I'm working 60 hours a week and it's never enough. When she asked about the ring, I thought maybe if I supported her, she would finally be happy. My heart broke for my son. Daniel, if she's not happy now, a ring won't change that. Someone who truly loves you doesn't measure that love in possessions. He looked at me with such sadness. What should I do? Before I could answer, his phone buzzed. He looked at it and his whole body tensed. It's Jessica. She wants to know where I am and when I'm coming home. He stood up to leave, and I felt like I was losing him all over again. Daniel, wait. There's something else I need to tell you. He paused at the door. What? I took a deep breath. This was the moment I had been dreading. Before your father died, he told me something. He made me promise not to tell you unless I thought you were in real danger. Daniel turned back to me, confusion written on his face. What are you talking about? I went to the desk in the corner and pulled out a folder I had retrieved from the attic that morning. Your father kept this. He wanted me to give it to you if I ever thought you needed to see it. I handed him the folder. Inside was a background report on Jessica, dated from 3 years ago, right around the time Daniel had started dating her. Daniel's hands shook as he read. Dad had her investigated? He was worried, I said. He wanted to protect you. The report was thorough. Jessica had been engaged 3 times before she met Daniel. Each engagement had ended when the man's financial situation changed. Her first fiancé lost his job. Her second fiancé's family business went bankrupt. Her third fiancé discovered she had run up $40,000 in credit card debt in his name. There was more. A pattern of expensive tastes and an inability to live within her means, a history of seeking out men with money or assets, social media posts about luxury lifestyles and expensive brands. Daniel read through it all, his face getting paler with each page. Why didn't Dad tell me? He wanted to, but I convinced him to wait. I thought it would drive you away if we seemed like we were attacking your relationship. I thought maybe she had changed. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. I paused. Your father died before he could talk to you about it. He made me promise to keep it unless I thought you were in real danger. Daniel, I think you're in danger now. He sat down heavily on the couch, still holding the papers. I don't understand. She told me she had one serious relationship before me that didn't work out. She never mentioned 3 engagements. She's lied to you about a lot of things, I said gently, and I think she's been lying to both of us. He looked up at me with confusion and hurt in his eyes. What do you mean? I sat down next to him and took his hand. Daniel, last month, I got curious about something Jessica said. She mentioned that she was sending money to her sick mother in Florida. She talked about how hard it was to support 2 households. Daniel nodded. She's been sending $1,000 a month to her mom. That's what she told you, I said. But it didn't add up to me. If her mother was that sick, why had we never met her? Why didn't Jessica ever visit her? Daniel's face showed growing alarm. What did you find out? I hired a private investigator, I admitted. I know that seems extreme, but I had to know the truth. Daniel, Jessica's mother died 5 years ago. She's not sending money to Florida. The investigator tracked the money transfers. She's been sending it to a savings account in her own name at Wells Fargo. The color drained completely from Daniel's face. That's not possible. She showed me emails from her mother. Emails she wrote herself, I said. The investigator confirmed it. There is no sick mother. There never was. Daniel stood up abruptly and paced the room. Why would she lie about that? We're married. We're supposed to be partners. I pulled out another document from the folder. There's more. The investigator also found out that Jessica never actually graduated from UCLA like she told you. She attended for 2 years and then dropped out. Her degree is fake. No, Daniel said, but his voice lacked conviction. She has the diploma on her office wall. You can buy fake diplomas online for $100, I said quietly. I'm sorry, Daniel. I know this is painful to hear. He stopped pacing and looked at me with devastated eyes. What else? What else don't I know? I hesitated because this next part would hurt the most. The investigator found something else, something I wasn't expecting. I pulled out a photograph from the folder. It showed Jessica having lunch with a man, laughing, her hand on his arm in a way that seemed intimate. This was taken 2 weeks ago. The man is Marcus Dalton. He's a real estate developer worth about $15 million. According to the investigator, Jessica has been meeting him regularly for the past 6 months. Daniel stared at the photo. His hands were trembling. She told me these lunch meetings were with her book club friends. I had the investigator look into Marcus Dalton. He's recently divorced, very wealthy, and apparently very interested in Jessica. The room was silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway, the same clock that had marked the hours of our family's life for 40 years. Finally, Daniel spoke. I need to confront her. Wait, I said. There's one more thing, the most important thing. I pulled out the final document from the folder. 3 months ago, Jessica went to see a lawyer, not just any lawyer, a divorce attorney named Robert Harrison who specializes in high-asset divorces. Daniel looked like he might be sick. She's planning to divorce me? The investigator couldn't get details of her conversations with the attorney because of confidentiality. But he did find out that she's been documenting everything about our family's finances. She's been taking pictures of bank statements, property deeds, investment accounts. She's been building a case. Daniel sank back onto the couch. I don't understand. We've only been married 2 years. What could she possibly get in a divorce? I took a deep breath. Daniel, you need to understand something about California law. Any assets acquired during the marriage are community property. That includes the house you bought, the cars, the savings. But more than that, she could claim that she's entitled to a portion of your future earnings. And if she can prove that she contributed to your success in any way, she could ask for spousal support. He put his head in his hands. This can't be happening. There's more, I said, hating that I had to keep hurting him. The investigator found something interesting in Jessica's financial records. Before she met you, she was in serious debt. Credit cards maxed out, loans in default. She owed about $65,000 to various creditors. Daniel looked up sharply. She told me she had some student loans, but they were almost paid off. She lied, I said. And here's the interesting part. In the 2 years since she married you, all of that debt has been paid off. Every penny. But how? Daniel asked. We don't have that kind of money lying around. I pointed to the bank statements in the folder. The investigator traced the money. Daniel, do you remember that $45,000 I gave you for the down payment on your house? He nodded numbly. You gave us $45,000. We put $5,000 of our savings with it to make the down payment. Did you see the actual transaction? I asked. Did you see proof that $50,000 went to the house? He thought about it. Jessica handled all the paperwork. She said I was too busy with work. I handed him another document. The down payment on your house was only $30,000. The other $20,000 went directly to pay off Jessica's credit cards. Daniel's mouth fell open. That's not possible. Jessica would have told me. Would she? I asked gently. Daniel, look at the evidence. She's lied about her mother. She's lied about her education. She's lied about her financial history. She's been meeting with another wealthy man behind your back. She's consulted with a divorce attorney. She's been systematically working through our family's assets while preparing to leave. He stood up and began pacing again, running his hands through his hair. I trusted her. I loved her. I defended her to you and Dad when you had concerns. I know, I said, and that's not your fault. She's very good at what she does. The investigator found records of her social media posts from before she met you. She was very open about her goals. She wanted to marry rich. She wanted a comfortable life. She was looking for someone with family money. Daniel stopped pacing and looked at me. The ring. She didn't just want the ring because it's pretty. No, I agreed. She wanted it because she knows exactly what it's worth. And more than that, she wanted it before she filed for divorce, so it couldn't be traced as something she took from the family. He sat down again, looking completely defeated. What do I do, Mom? I married her. I made vows. How do I come back from this? I moved to sit next to him and put my arm around his shoulders like I used to when he was little. You get a good lawyer. You protect yourself. And you start the process of rebuilding your life. But I love her, he said, and his voice broke. Or at least, I love who I thought she was. I know, sweetheart, and that's going to hurt for a while, but loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you. We sat there together for a long time, mother and son, united again in shared pain and understanding. Finally, Daniel spoke. I need to see proof. I need to talk to this investigator myself. I nodded. I expected that. His number is in the folder. His name is Robert Chen. He's been investigating for 6 weeks, and he has extensive documentation. Daniel stood up slowly like he had aged 10 years in the past hour. I should go home. I need to think. Daniel, wait, I said. I don't think you should go home yet. If Jessica knows you're aware of what she's been doing, she might accelerate her plans. You need to talk to a lawyer first. He shook his head. I can't just not go home. She'll know something is wrong. Tell her you're staying here tonight because we had a fight, I suggested. Tell her I'm sick and you need to take care of me. Tell her anything, but please don't go back there until you've talked to a lawyer and made a plan. He looked torn. She'll call. She'll want to know what's happening. So let her call, I said. You're allowed to take a night to process information. You're allowed to have boundaries. He thought about it for a moment, then nodded. Okay, I'll tell her we had a big argument and I'm too angry to drive. I'll stay here tonight. I felt relief wash over me. At least for tonight, I could keep my son safe. At least for tonight, I could protect him from the woman who had been systematically destroying him. That evening, Daniel called Jessica and told her he was staying at my house because we had argued and he was too upset to drive home safely. I could hear her voice on the other end of the line, shrill and insistent. "What did she say to you? What lies is she telling? You need to come home right now, Daniel. We need to present a united front against her manipulation." Daniel's jaw tightened as he listened. "Jessica, I need space tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. If you don't come home right now, there will be consequences," she said, her voice loud enough for me to hear. "You're choosing your mother over your wife. That's not acceptable." "I'm not choosing anyone," Daniel said wearily. "I just need one night to think." "Fine," Jessica snapped. "But don't expect me to be happy about this. You're being weak, Daniel, just like always." She hung up without saying goodbye. Daniel stared at his phone like it was a stranger. She's never talked to me like that before, at least not when she thought I might hear it clearly. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Sometimes I've heard her on the phone with her friends," he admitted. "She complains about me. She calls me weak. She says I'm too attached to you. She says I'm not ambitious enough, but when I've confronted her about it, she says I misheard or took things out of context." This was worse than I thought. "Daniel, that's emotional abuse. You know that, right?" He looked at me with tired eyes. "I think I've known for a while, I just didn't want to admit it." That night, we ordered pizza and sat in the living room like we used to do when Daniel was in high school. We didn't talk about Jessica. Instead, we talked about Thomas. We looked through old photo albums. We remembered happy times. We laughed at old jokes. For a few hours, we were just Margaret and Daniel again, mother and son, before Jessica had driven a wedge between us. The next morning, Daniel called Robert Chen, the private investigator. They talked for over an hour while I made breakfast. When Daniel came into the kitchen, his face was set with determination. "I'm meeting with a divorce attorney this afternoon," he said. "Mr. Chen recommended someone named Patricia Morrison. She specializes in cases like mine." "I'm proud of you," I told him. "I know this is hard." "The investigator told me something else," Daniel said, sitting down at the table. "He's been following Jessica for 6 weeks. In that time, she's met with Marcus Dalton 11 times. They've had dinner together. They've gone to his beach house. Mom, I think she's been cheating on me." I reached across the table and took his hand. "I'm sorry, Daniel. You deserve so much better than this." "The worst part is that I feel stupid," he said. "Everyone could see what she was except me. Dad knew. You knew. I was the only one who didn't." "You're not stupid," I insisted. "You're trusting. There's a difference. Jessica is skilled at deception. She's had years of practice." Daniel pushed his eggs around his plate without, eating. "Mr. Chen told me about her pattern. 3 broken engagements before me. Each time she left when the money situation changed. It's like she has a playbook." "Did the investigator find anything else?" I asked. "He tracked her spending habits," Daniel said. "Mom, in the past 2 years, she's spent over $95,000 on personal expenses. Designer clothes, spa treatments, expensive lunches with friends. She told me all of that was coming from her salary from the marketing firm." "But it wasn't?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "She doesn't even work at the marketing firm anymore," Daniel said, his voice hollow. "She quit 6 months ago. She's been lying about going to work every day. Mr. Chen followed her. She goes shopping, meets with Marcus Dalton, has lunch with friends. She's been living off the joint account I've been depositing my paychecks into." I felt anger surge through me. "Daniel, that's financial fraud." "I know," he said. "Patricia is going to include all of this in the divorce filing." He finally looked up at me, and I saw my little boy again, hurt and confused. How did I miss all the signs, Mom? How did I not see what was happening in my own marriage? I moved my chair closer to his and put my arm around his shoulders. "Because you loved her. Because you trusted her. Because you're a good person who assumes other people are good too. Jessica exploited those qualities. That's on her, not on you." Dad tried to warn me," Daniel said softly. In his journal entries, he saw through her from the beginning. "Your father had good instincts about people," I agreed, "but he also understood that you had to make your own choices. He loved you enough to let you find your own way, even when he was worried." Daniel was quiet for a moment. I keep thinking about all the red flags I ignored. The way she always had an excuse when I asked about her spending. The way she changed the subject whenever I wanted to talk about our financial future. The way she was always too busy to look for a new job after she quit the marketing firm. "What made you finally start questioning things?" I asked. He thought about it. "It was actually something small. Last month she told me she needed $500 for new tires for her car. I gave her the money. But a week later, I noticed her tires were still the old ones, worn and bald. When I asked her about it, she got defensive and said the tire shop had to order them and they weren't in yet. But Mom, it's been a month. The tires never got replaced." "Where did the $500 go?" I asked. "I don't know," Daniel said. But it made me start paying attention to other things, little lies, inconsistencies in her stories, money that disappeared without explanation. He stood up and paced the kitchen. "I feel like I've been living with a stranger, like the woman I thought I married never really existed." "She existed in your mind," I said gently. "You fell in love with the person Jessica pretended to be. The real. Jessica is someone very different." "Mr. Chen showed me her social media posts from before she met me," Daniel continued. "She was very open about her goals. She posted about wanting to marry rich. She shared articles about how to land a wealthy husband. She bragged about dating men for their money. It was all right there in plain sight, and I never bothered to look." "You didn't look because you had no reason to suspect," I said. "You're not a suspicious person, Daniel. That's a good quality. Don't let Jessica make you into someone cynical and distrustful." He stopped pacing and looked at me. "How do I trust anyone again after this?" "You loved her?" I said. "You trusted her. That's not stupidity. That's having a good heart. She's the one who should feel ashamed, not you." He squeezed my hand. "Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for doing this investigation even though it must have been expensive and difficult. How much did it cost? I'll pay you back." "We'll worry about that later," I said. "Right now, you need to focus on protecting yourself." Daniel met with Patricia Morrison that afternoon. He came back to my house 3 hours later looking exhausted but clear-eyed. "She says I have a strong case," he said, "especially with the evidence of Jessica's fraud regarding the house down payment. That's a form of financial abuse, and if we can prove she's been having an affair, that could impact the divorce settlement." "What's the next step?" I asked. "I need to secure our financial accounts," he said. "I need to change passwords and make sure Jessica can't drain everything before we file for divorce. Then tomorrow, Patricia is going to file papers." "How do you feel?" I asked. He thought about it. Scared, sad, angry, but also relieved. "Is that strange? To feel relieved?" "Not at all," I said. "You've been carrying this weight for a long time without even knowing it. Now you can finally put it down." Daniel pulled out his laptop and spent the next hour changing passwords and securing accounts. I watched him work, seeing the determination in his face. This was my son taking control of his life. This was him choosing to protect himself. When he finished, he looked at me with worry in his eyes. "Mom, what if Jessica tries to hurt you? She's vindictive. She might come after you since she can't get to me right now." "I can handle Jessica," I said with more confidence than I felt. "Besides, I have Mr. Weber on speed dial if I need legal help." "Promise me you'll be careful," Daniel insisted. "Promise me you won't let her in the house if she comes over." I promised. That evening, we ordered Chinese food and watched old family videos that I had recently digitized. We watched Daniel's first birthday party, his 5th grade graduation, his high school prom. Thomas was in so many of these videos, young and healthy and full of life. "God, I miss him," Daniel said, watching his father teach him to ride a bike. "He was such a good dad." "He was so proud of you," I said. "Everything he did was for you." "I wish he was here now," Daniel said. He'd know what to say to make this better. He is here, I told him, in these memories, in the lessons he taught you, in the man you've become. Daniel wiped his eyes. Do you think he'd be disappointed in me? For marrying Jessica? Not for 1 second, I said firmly. Your father made mistakes too. We all do. He'd be proud of you for recognizing the truth and having the courage to do something about it. We stayed up late that night, talking about Thomas, about the good times before Jessica, about the future Daniel hoped to build. It reminded me of the conversations we used to have when Daniel was in high school, staying up late at the kitchen table solving the world's problems together, mother and son, united again. That evening, Daniel went home to face Jessica. I wanted to go with him, but Patricia had advised against it. This was something Daniel needed to do alone. He called me 2 hours later. She knows, he said, his voice shaking. She knows about the investigation. She knows I talked to a lawyer. How? I asked. I don't know, but she was waiting for me when I got home. She said, if I go through with the divorce, she'll destroy me. She'll take everything. She'll make sure I never see you again. She can't do that, I said. Daniel, she's bluffing. She's scared because she's losing control. She said other things too, he continued. She said I was pathetic. She said I would never find anyone else. She said my father would be ashamed of me. I felt rage flood through me. Your father would be proud of you for standing up to her. Don't let her twist his memory. I moved out, Daniel said. I packed a bag and left. I'm at a hotel right now. Patricia said it's better this way. It shows I'm serious about the divorce. You can stay here, I offered. You always have a home here. I know, Mom, but I think I need to do this on my own for a while. I need to figure out who I am without Jessica telling me. I understood. I'm proud of you, Daniel. The next few days were difficult. Jessica called me repeatedly, leaving voicemails that alternated between angry accusations and tearful apologies. In one message, she screamed that I had destroyed her marriage. In the next, she begged me to convince Daniel to come back. She showed up at my house twice. The first time, I refused to let her in. She stood on my porch and yelled that I was a manipulative old woman who couldn't let go of her son. She said I was jealous because Daniel loved her more than me. She said I was selfish for keeping my wedding ring when she deserved it. The second time she came, she tried a different approach. She came to the door crying, her makeup smeared, looking genuinely distraught. Margaret, please, she begged. I know I made mistakes. I know I said things I shouldn't have, but I love Daniel. I really do love him. You have to help me fix this. I looked at this woman I had tried so hard to welcome into my family. This woman who had lied and manipulated and schemed. This woman who had seen my son as nothing more than a meal ticket. Jessica, I said calmly, you've had many chances to show that you love Daniel. You chose to use him instead. That's on you, not me. But the things he's accusing me of, she said, her voice rising, that investigator made it all look worse than it is. Yes, I met with Marcus Dalton, but we're just friends. Yes, I used some of the house money to pay off debts, but I was going to tell Daniel eventually. Yes, I met with a lawyer, but I was just exploring my options after Daniel had been so cold to me. Every sentence was another lie, another manipulation. Jessica, I have proof of everything, I said. The investigator documented all of it. You can't talk your way out of this. Her tears dried up instantly, and I saw her real face, cold, calculating, angry. You're going to regret this, Margaret. I'll make sure Daniel never speaks to you again. I'll tell everyone you're a bitter old woman who tried to destroy our marriage out of jealousy. I'll ruin you. You're welcome to try, I said, but I have the truth on my side, and that's more powerful than any lie you can tell. She left, and I watched her drive away in the Mercedes that my money had helped purchase. I called Daniel immediately to tell him about the encounter. The divorce proceedings moved quickly. Patricia was extremely competent, and she had built a strong case. Jessica's fraud with the down payment money was clear. The affair with Marcus Dalton was documented. The fake college degree was exposed. The lies about her mother were revealed. But Jessica didn't go quietly. She hired an expensive lawyer and fought back hard. She claimed that the down payment issue was a misunderstanding. She said Marcus was just a friend. She argued that the college degree confusion was from a different school she had attended. She played the victim, claiming she was being attacked by a manipulative mother-in-law who wanted to control her son. The hearing was set for 6 weeks after the divorce papers were filed. Daniel was a wreck. He had lost 15 pounds. He wasn't sleeping. His work was suffering. But he held firm. He didn't back down. The day before the hearing, something unexpected happened. Robert Chen, the private investigator, called me with urgent news. "Mrs. Harrison," he said, "I've discovered something else, something important." "What is it?" I asked, my heart racing. "I've been doing more research into Jessica's background. I found out that she was married before. Not engaged. Actually married." "Daniel said she was only engaged once before him," I said. "She lied about that, too. She was married 7 years ago to a man named Christopher Walsh. They were married for 18 months before he filed for divorce." "Why?" According to the divorce records, which are public in the county where they lived, Christopher Walsh discovered that Jessica had been systematically stealing from him. She had access to his bank accounts, and she drained $50,000 over the course of their marriage. She also forged his signature on a loan application. I felt sick. Did she go to jail? No. Christopher Walsh chose not to press criminal charges. He just wanted out. But get this, Mrs. Harrison. The divorce was never finalized. I sat down heavily in my chair. What do you mean it was never finalized? The paperwork was filed, but there was a problem with the service of papers. Jessica couldn't be located to sign the final documents. Technically, legally, she's still married to Christopher Walsh, which means her marriage to your son is not valid. The implications hit me like a tidal wave. Jessica committed bigamy. "Yes," Robert Chen said, "and that's a felony in California. With your permission, I'd like to contact Christopher Walsh and see if he's willing to testify at the hearing tomorrow." "Do it," I said immediately. "Daniel needs to know about this." I called Daniel right away and told him what the investigator had discovered. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "So, I'm not even legally married to her?" he finally said. "No," I said gently. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I know this is a lot to process." "Actually," he said, and I heard something new in his voice, something like relief. "This makes things easier. If the marriage isn't legal, she has no claim to anything. No spousal support, no community property, nothing." "That's exactly right," I said. "Patricia will present this at the hearing tomorrow." The next day, we all gathered in the family court. Daniel sat on one side with Patricia Morrison. Jessica sat on the other side with her expensive lawyer, looking confident and composed in a designer suit. The judge, a stern-looking woman named Judge Sandra Phillips, called the hearing to order. Patricia presented our case methodically. She showed the evidence of the fraudulent use of the house down payment money. She presented photographs of Jessica with Marcus Dalton. She showed the fake diploma. She demonstrated the pattern of lies and manipulation. Jessica's lawyer tried to dismiss everything as misunderstandings and coincidences. He painted Jessica as a victim of a vendetta by an overbearing mother-in-law. Then Patricia played her trump card. "Your Honor," she said, "I'd like to call Christopher Walsh to the stand." Jessica's face went white. Her lawyer looked confused. Christopher Walsh was a nice-looking man in his early 40s. He was sworn in and took his seat. Patricia began her questions. "Mr. Walsh, were you previously married to Jessica Walsh, née Jessica Montgomery?" "Yes," he said. "We were married 7 years ago." "And are you still married to her?" Jessica's lawyer jumped up. "Objection! This is irrelevant to the current proceedings." Judge Phillips looked interested. "I'll allow it. Answer the question, Mr. Walsh." "Yes," Christopher said clearly. "I am still legally married to Jessica. We attempted to divorce 7 years ago, but the paperwork was never finalized because Jessica disappeared before she could sign the final documents. The courtroom erupted. Judge Phillips banged her gavel. "Order!" Jessica was whispering frantically to her lawyer. Her carefully composed expression had shattered. Patricia continued, "Mr. Walsh, can you tell the court why you initially filed for divorce?" "Jessica stole from me," he said. "Over 18 months, she took $50,000 from my accounts. She also forged my signature on a loan application for $25,000, which she used to pay off her personal debts. When I discovered what she had done, I filed for divorce immediately." "And you never saw her again after that?" "No. She left town before the divorce could be finalized. I assumed she had moved on with her life. I didn't realize she had remarried, illegally." Judge Phillips turned to Jessica. "Miss Montgomery, is this true? Are you still legally married to Mr. Walsh?" Jessica's lawyer was frantically flipping through papers. Jessica herself looked trapped. Finally, she spoke. "I thought the divorce was finalized. I didn't know there was a problem with the paperwork." Patricia smiled. "Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Montgomery was aware the divorce was not complete. We have emails between her and a friend from 6 years ago where she explicitly states that she's avoiding finalizing the divorce because she doesn't want to pay the court fees." She presented the emails. They were damning. Jessica had known exactly what she was doing. Judge Phillips looked at Jessica with disgust. "Miss Montgomery, you committed bigamy when you married Daniel Harrison. That's a felony in California. I'm going to refer this case to the district attorney's office for criminal prosecution." She turned to Daniel. "Mr. Harrison, your marriage to Ms. Montgomery is legally void. You were never married. Therefore, she has no claim to any property, assets, or support. This case is dismissed." It was over. Just like that, it was over. Jessica was led out of the courtroom by bailiffs. Her lawyer abandoned her immediately, not wanting to be associated with a criminal case. Daniel sat there stunned. Patricia patted his shoulder. "Congratulations, Daniel. You're free." Outside the courthouse, Daniel and I stood in the sunshine. He turned to me with tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for seeing what I couldn't see." I hugged him tight. "That's what mothers do. We protect our children even when they're grown." We walked to a nearby cafe and sat down to process everything that had happened. Daniel ordered coffee and just held the cup in his hand, staring at it. "I feel like an idiot," he said finally. "How did I not see any of this?" "She was very good at what she did," I said. "She's had practice. This wasn't her first time manipulating someone." "Christopher Walsh said she stole from him too," Daniel said. "She had a whole pattern, and I fell for it completely." "You loved someone," I said. "That's not a weakness. She's the one who should be ashamed, not you." He looked at me across the table. "The ring. She wanted your ring because she knew she was going to disappear again. She was planning her exit strategy." "Probably," I agreed. "She wanted to take whatever she could before she moved on to Marcus Dalton or whoever came next." Daniel shook his head. "I defended her to you. I chose her over you. I'm so sorry, Mom." "You don't need to apologize," I said. "You're my son. I love you unconditionally. That never changed, even when things were difficult between us." We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Daniel spoke again. "What happens now?" "Now you heal," I said. "You take time to recover. You figure out who you are without her influence, and you rebuild your life." "Will you help me?" he asked. "Of course," I said. "But Daniel, this time, you're going to stand on your own 2 feet. No more handouts, no more solving your problems with money. You're a grown man with a good job. You can handle your own finances." He smiled for the first time in weeks. "That sounds good, actually. I think I need that." "Your father would be proud of you," I said. "He worried about you getting involved with the wrong person. But he would be so proud of how you handled this once you knew the truth." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. I miss him. I miss him too, I said, every single day. I twisted my wedding ring on my finger, feeling its familiar weight. But he's still with us in a way. His love is still here. His wisdom is still here. And this ring will always remind me of that. Daniel reached across the table and touched the ring gently. I'm glad you kept it, Mom. I'm glad you didn't let her take it. Over the next few months, things slowly returned to normal. Or rather, they found a new normal. Daniel moved into a modest apartment on his own. He paid his own rent and his own bills. He cooked his own meals. He learned to live within his means. He started therapy to work through the emotional trauma of what Jessica had done to him. He went back to calling me every Sunday. We had dinner together twice a month. He started dating again, slowly and carefully. He was more cautious now, more aware of red flags. He asked my opinion, but he made his own decisions. Jessica was charged with bigamy and fraud. She pleaded guilty to avoid a trial and received 3 years of probation and was ordered to pay restitution to both Christopher Walsh and Daniel for the money she had stolen. She left California, and we never saw her again. I heard through the grapevine that she had moved to Arizona and was working as a waitress. Apparently, Marcus Dalton had lost interest once he found out about her legal troubles. I restructured my finances and made a will with clear boundaries. I set aside money for Daniel's future, inheritance, but it was protected in a trust that couldn't be touched until I passed away. I made sure everything was documented and legal so no one could ever manipulate him again. I joined a support group for parents who had experienced similar situations with manipulative in-laws. I found a whole community of people who understood what I had been through. I made new friends. I rediscovered old hobbies. One evening, about 6 months after the hearing, Daniel came over for dinner. We sat in the kitchen eating the meatloaf I had made, Thomas's favorite recipe. Mom, Daniel said, I want to tell you something. What is it? I asked. I met someone, he said, and he was smiling shyly. Her name is Rachel. She's a teacher at the elementary school. We've been dating for about a month. That's wonderful, I said, genuinely happy for him. When do I get to meet her? That's the thing, he said. I want you to meet her, but I also want to make sure we're serious first. I want to take things slowly. I want to really get to know her before introducing her to my family. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. That's very wise. Take your time. There's no rush. She knows about Jessica, he said. I was honest with her from the beginning about what I went through. She appreciated that I was upfront about it. She sounds like a good person, I said. She is, Daniel said, and his face glowed with genuine happiness. She's kind and smart and funny. And Mom, the best part? She has her own money. She owns her own home. She's financially independent. When we go out, she insists on splitting the bill. She doesn't want anything from me except my company. I felt tears prick my eyes. Your father would love her already. 3 months later, Daniel brought Rachel to Sunday dinner. She was exactly as he described, a warm, genuine woman with a quick smile and an easy laugh. She brought flowers for me and a bottle of wine. She asked about Thomas and looked at family photos with real interest. She complimented my cooking without being over the top. She treated Daniel with affection and respect. As I watched them together in my living room, laughing at an old story Daniel was telling, I felt something release in my chest, a fear I had been carrying since Thomas died. The fear that Daniel would never find genuine love, the fear that he would always be vulnerable to manipulation. But looking at him now, older and wiser and healing, I knew he would be okay. We would be okay. After dinner, Rachel helped me clear the dishes despite my protests. In the kitchen, she turned to me and said, Mrs. Harrison, I want you to know that I understand Daniel has been through a lot. I'm not looking to replace anything or take anything. I just want to be a positive part of his life. I looked at this woman, this stranger who was quickly becoming family, and I smiled. Rachel, you already are. A year after the divorce hearing, on what would have been Thomas's and my 44th wedding anniversary, I went to visit his grave. I brought fresh flowers and sat on the grass next to his headstone. "Thomas," I said out loud, not caring if anyone heard me, "I wish you were here to see Daniel now. He's doing so well. He found a good woman, a real partner. He's happy again." I twisted my wedding ring on my finger. Jessica wanted this ring, you know. She thought it was just jewelry, just a thing to be possessed. She didn't understand that this ring is a symbol of us, of our love, of our life together, of everything we built. The wind rustled through the trees, and I felt Thomas's presence. I kept it, my love. I kept our ring, and I kept our son safe. I know you were worried about him, but he's strong. We raised him right. He just needed time to find his way back. I sat there for a long time, feeling peaceful. When I stood to leave, I looked down at my ring one more time. It caught the sunlight and sparkled. 3 small diamonds. Love, loyalty, forever. Jessica had wanted to take this from me. She had seen it as just another asset to acquire, another piece of property to claim. But she had been wrong. This ring was not about money or property. It was about something she would never understand. True love, commitment, partnership. The kind of love that doesn't have a price tag. That evening, Daniel and Rachel came over for dinner. We sat around my dining table, the same table where Thomas and I had shared thousands of meals, where we had raised our son, where we had celebrated holidays and birthdays and ordinary Tuesdays. Rachel was telling a funny story about her students. Daniel was laughing. I was serving dessert. It was normal and beautiful and exactly what Thomas and I had always wanted for our son. A real family, based on love, not money, on respect, not manipulation, on genuine connection, not transactions. After dessert, Daniel pulled a small box out of his pocket. "Mom," he said, suddenly nervous, "Rachel and I have something to tell you." Rachel held out her hand and I saw a simple, beautiful engagement ring. "We're getting married," Daniel said, watching my face carefully. I stood up and hugged them both. "I'm so happy for you," I said, and I meant it with my whole heart. "Your father would be thrilled." "There's something else," Daniel said. "Rachel and I have been talking, and we don't want a big wedding. We want something small and meaningful, just close family and friends. And Mom, we want you to be part of the ceremony. We want you to do a reading or say a blessing or whatever you'd like." My eyes filled with tears. "I would be honored." Rachel hugged me. "Mrs. Harrison, you raised an incredible man. I'm grateful that you fought for him when he needed it. I'm grateful that you protected him, and I'm grateful that you're going to be my mother-in-law." That night, after they left, I sat in my living room looking at the family photos on the mantel. Thomas and me on our wedding day, so young and full of hope. Daniel as a baby, as a toddler, as a teenager. Our family through the years, captured in frozen moments. I thought about Jessica and her schemes. I thought about how she had tried to take everything from us, but she had failed. Because she didn't understand that you can't steal love. You can't manipulate your way into a real family. You can't buy or con your way into the kind of bonds that Thomas and I had built over 42 years of marriage. I looked down at my wedding ring, still on my finger where it had been for more than 4 decades. Thomas had given me this ring when we were both 22 years old, with nothing but love and hope and dreams. We had built a life together. We had raised a son. We had faced challenges and celebrated victories, and even though he was gone, that love remained. It remained in this house we built together. It remained in the son we raised. It remained in the memories we created. And it remained in this ring, this simple gold band with 3 small diamonds. Love, loyalty, forever. Jessica had demanded this ring as a family heirloom. She had felt entitled to it, but she had been wrong. This ring was already in the family. It was in the right family, and it would stay there. 6 months later, Daniel and Rachel got married in a small ceremony in my backyard. The same backyard where Thomas had taught Daniel to play baseball. The same backyard where we had hosted countless barbecues and birthday parties. It was a beautiful summer day. Rachel wore a simple white dress and carried wildflowers from the garden Thomas had planted years ago. Daniel wore a suit that had belonged to his father. I stood before them and read from 1 Corinthians. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. As I read those words, I thought about the contrast between this wedding and what Daniel's marriage to Jessica had been. Jessica's love had been selfish and calculating. She had kept meticulous records of what she thought she was owed. She had dishonored Daniel by lying to him and betraying him. But Rachel's love was different. It was genuine and giving. It was patient and kind. It was the kind of love that Thomas and I had shared, the kind of love that builds families instead of destroying them. After the ceremony, during the reception, Rachel approached me with something in her hand. "Mrs. Harrison," she said, "I wanted to give you this." It was a photograph of Thomas, Daniel, and me from 20 years ago. We were at the beach, all three of us laughing at something. Thomas had his arm around me. Daniel was grinning at the camera. We looked happy and whole. "I found it in a box of old photos Daniel had," Rachel said. "I thought you might like it for your wall." I hugged her, this daughter-in-law who understood the importance of family, of memory, of honoring those who came before. "Thank you," I whispered. "You're exactly what this family needed." That night, after all the guests had left and Daniel and Rachel had gone to their hotel, I sat alone in my house and looked at the photograph Rachel had given me. Thomas's face smiled back at me, frozen in that moment of joy. I touched his image gently. "We did it, my love," I whispered. "We protected our son. We kept our family safe. Jessica tried to destroy what we built, but she failed. Because what we built was real. It was strong. It was based on something she could never understand." I twisted my wedding ring, feeling its familiar weight. "This ring stays with me," I said to Thomas's photograph, "and when I'm gone, it will go to Daniel. And maybe someday, if he and Rachel have a son, he'll give it to his wife with the same love you gave it to me. It will stay in the family, the real family, the family built on love, not greed." Some nights when I look at the stars from my backyard, I think about the woman I was 2 years ago, the woman who almost gave up my wedding ring to keep peace with a manipulative daughter-in-law, the woman who confused generosity with enabling, love with allowing myself to be used. That woman learned some hard lessons. She learned that sometimes protecting the people you love means saying no. She learned that real love doesn't demand, it doesn't manipulate, it doesn't keep score. She learned that a wedding ring is not just jewelry. It's a symbol of commitment and sacrifice and partnership. It's a reminder that some things in life cannot and should not be bought or sold. I learned that I had spent $77,400 trying to buy happiness for my son and his wife. But happiness cannot be purchased. Peace cannot be bargained for. Love cannot be traded. The most valuable things I gave my son had nothing to do with money. I gave him the truth when he needed it, even when it hurt. I gave him protection when he was being exploited, even when he couldn't see it. I gave him a soft place to land when his world fell apart. I gave him the wisdom to recognize real love when he found it again. And I kept my wedding ring, this symbol of true love, safe for the family that truly deserved it. My name is Margaret. I'm 68 years old, and I've learned that the most precious heirlooms are not things you can hold in your hand. They're the lessons you pass down, the love you share, the memories you create. And sometimes protecting those heirlooms means fighting for them, even against people who claim to be family. If you liked my story, you can support me by making a donation so I can write more stories. Thank you in advance. And you, what would you do in this person's place? I would love to hear your opinion, so please share it with me in the comments. I'm always curious about what you all think, and also write me where you heard this story. For more life stories like this, like the video and subscribe to my channel. There are many other stories waiting for you. With heartfelt greetings until next time.